I mean, I'm no huge Ronaldo fan. I think that's pretty obvious, and that's not for his footballing ability. It's sad for him, the way people are speaking about Messi towards the end of his career and Ronaldo, and it's completely different.
Where does he go from here?
I always think the greatest players of all time, they've either dominated the European Cup or they've won the World Cup or the Euros or something. Winning leagues is not enough. To be really put yourself on a level of the real greats. That's what they all do. And it was almost, wow, I can't believe I'm playing at this level.
You know, that made me think about Ronaldo. Obviously, he's out of the World Cup now, and you've had a couple of strong opinions on Ronaldo over the last couple of weeks. So have I, to be honest, following the interview he did. And then I'm a Man United fan, so I didn't take it especially well, what he said and how he did it. And I thought it was very self-serving, a little selfish, etc. There's probably another way to do it. And I wonder now, I actually wonder if he regrets doing it. I wonder if he knew it would play out like it did, and then he'd go to the World Cup, be benched again, which almost kind of validates Erik ten Hag's position. But what's your whole stance on the Ronaldo saga?
I actually only watched the full interview a couple of days ago. He did with Piers Morgan. I'd only seen clips of it. And I watched the full interview. I'm not sure he's a guy who regrets anything or too much, if I'm being totally honest. Or certainly doesn't give off that maybe in his private thoughts. I think the Portugal one will have hurt him. But, you know, he's fallible. You know, he's not superhuman. He's one of the greatest players of all time. He's special. But I mean, I'm no huge Ronaldo fan. I think that's pretty obvious, and that's not for his footballing ability. I've got so much admiration for him for his mental strength. I just think it's unbelievable. I think probably one of the strongest players mentally, because he's had that thing his whole career. For how good he is, he still had sort of Messi on his shoulder. It's always, he could never almost sit back and go, I'm the best, and almost relax. He's always had this constant, yeah, but you're not as good as Messi. And I know it splits people, but I would say the majority of people would probably side with Messi. I would imagine, I think that they do. And I think to always have that, and always have that thing of trying to prove people wrong, and I've got that on a completely different level. It's almost like he feels like he's not rated, even though everyone says he's one of the best players of all time. And I can't help but admire that drive, because I've got that drive, but just not that ability that he's got. But I'm saying I don't want him to sort of ruin his legacy with interviews. I mean, I don't really care. It's not my problem. But it's sad for him, the way people are speaking about Messi towards the end of his career and Ronaldo, and it's completely different. And it's nothing to do with what's going on the pitch. I think it's always that idea that Ronaldo was about himself. It was his ego, whereas Messi is painted as this like saint figure, when I don't actually think that's true. But people are talking about want Messi to win the World Cup. You know, with Ronaldo, it's like he's not the same player. But who is the same player at 37? So he's getting criticised for not being the same player at 37, 38, when really he's usually getting lauded at that stage of his career. But because of the way he comes across, he storms off the pitch, storms down the tunnel, he's given that interview. People are obviously gunning for him now. And
where does he go from here? Because if he had a phenomenal World Cup, then there'd probably be a lot of doors open for him. Some top sides would probably want him, even just for a year contract or something. But in the wake of being a disruptive employee at his last role, and then going off to the Euros and being either a disruptive employee or just a poor performing employee, makes you wonder, like, what manager's going to want to take on that ego, but also without the upside you get with just like incredible on-field performance. So it's now it seems like it's ego.
Tilted the other way now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Ronaldo hasn't changed.
Yeah.
He's always been that sort of character. Everyone's known that. But he was worth the hassle.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, and that's like everything in football. You know, when we talk about a manager making a decision, can you put up with that? And it's in your business, isn't it? In your life. You know, you don't cut off your nose to spite your face. But when it gets to that stage where you're thinking, this is becoming more of a problem. And again, I say that to my son, you know, when a manager looks at you as a player, every manager wants the same thing. High performance, low maintenance. That's it. You know, certain players, you know, and it's when it starts getting weighted to the high maintenance, is basically the scales are more tilted towards the high maintenance. It's time to go.
Did you see any high maintenance players in your career that were particularly troublesome?
that were or weren't.
Were.
It's funny at Liverpool in that I think Liverpool's a unique club, and I'm sure it's still the same. Liverpool supporters have an obsession with the manager that I don't think I've seen at any other club. So when the team win, it's about Shankly, Paisley. Now it's Klopp. We know there's great players, but the adulation, I think, started with Bill Shankly. And when Liverpool win, it's about the manager and the players. It's not the players then the manager. So the managers at Liverpool, I think, have always had a great deal of authority. They've always had the people with them. So it's never a case of a players could get a manager out. And I never saw that at Liverpool. Certainly not when I was there. Roy Hodgson had a tough time at Liverpool. He wasn't the right manager for the club. And the club moved him on after about 6 months.
Why wasn't he the right manager?
He didn't get the club. He didn't say the right things in the press. He was too defensive for Liverpool, for the top, not just for Liverpool, but for any top club. But listen, he'd had success in his career playing that way, and he wasn't going to change when he was in his 60s. So it was just the wrong appointment. It didn't work.
I read that Gerrard deliberately missed a penalty.
No, that is not true.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it was true, but that's what I read, and I thought, there's no fucking way that Gerrard would miss a penalty. And I actually went upstairs before you came and watched it to see Gerrard's body language, and Gerrard did look pissed off when he missed it. But
no, nothing like that. And I mean, I felt sorry for him, to be honest. But my point I'm making about the club is, I think it would always be difficult at any stage for a player to have this big ego to sort of try and think he was more powerful than manager, because I think that's why managers love being manager of Liverpool, is because they'll always get time. You look at Jurgen Klopp now, and there was a spell in the season, the pandemic season, where he's done amazing. He's a godlike figure. But Liverpool actually lost 6 games at home against teams near the bottom of the table in a row. And I'm not saying he should have been sacked. What I'm saying is, at other clubs, that question would have been asked. I don't think there'd been one Liverpool supporter, a sane one, who would have actually even contemplated that for anything, because that's the type of support they've been brought up on. The manager knows what he's doing.
Well, one of my best friends is maybe my best friend in the world is a Liverpool fan, and I said to him this year when Liverpool was struggling, I said, what would it take for you to become Klopp out? He wouldn't answer the question. I pressed him for weeks and weeks and weeks. Eventually, I was like, if Liverpool get relegated, are you still Klopp in? He was like, yeah. And he just like leaves the group chat. But it's like a religious phenomenon.
Yeah, I don't, even with Ferguson at Man U, I know he was unbelievable, but I just think when I go to sort of see Man United's past a big rival, it would be George Best and Bobby Charlton in that. And then maybe, Matt Busby comes after them in some ways. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just feels like different at Liverpool. And I think that gives managers huge power, and why I don't think I've ever encountered what I would call player power as such at Liverpool.
Probably why Liverpool have been successful, though, because many other clubs have struggled with that. Even Manchester United, most recently, with some of the big personalities we've had, where the manager doesn't have authority. And you get into the first season and you go, the manager's going to be fired because we're not going to get rid of this world-class player. And then I was speaking to Jesse Lingard about this, like, because you can almost feel it in the air when it's coming. You can feel that they've lost that phrase, "lost the dressing room." I've always wondered if that was true. Can I ask, is it a real thing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I probably felt that when Roy Hodgson was there. I don't think many players were enjoying the training or having him, and I was almost felt like I was trying to come on,
Is there private comments though between you and Gerrard where you go, oh, this is not good.
Yeah, of course. Listen, we're like fans. That would be maybe I was like, what's he doing there? Why has he done that? I always remember, and the only time I've ever did this in my whole career, we lost at home to Blackpool under Roy Hodgson. And I think it was an international break, and I'd stopped playing for England then. And I just couldn't sleep. And I went in the next morning and I went straight into his office. And he was actually having a coach's meeting. And I was probably 33, 34, so I was a really experienced pro. And we just had this big discussion with all the coaches, and it wasn't, and probably said things to him that maybe, he was talking about what he wanted to do for that. And I was saying, you can't do that. You can't do that. It wasn't me questioning him as a manager. It was almost like I wanted to help him. And not because he needed help as a manager. He needed help as a Liverpool manager as such. And it was almost like, no, if you come out and say that, or if you play this play, everyone's just going, you can't do that anymore. That's got to stop. I wouldn't name the names I was talking about. I wouldn't do that. But that wasn't a case of me saying, you don't know what you're doing, you need to do it. It wasn't in an arrogant way. It was in a way as if, like, again, the club is just like, oh, where are we going? What are we doing? It wasn't for sort of, it was more trying to help the situation, really trying to help him as a manager, because I knew it was tough.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favour. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.